Masikhuluma iqiniso, guys. I-DA kanjani that is the second biggest? Kanjani? Like when you look at the numbers in South Africa, I know they keep saying no, the colors vote. I'm like, no, nakhona. If you look at the realistic numbers of this country and how white people are less than 10%, but you're telling me that a party of people who are less percent is the second biggest party?
My sister and I'm I always used to ask myself that very same question. I always used to ask myself, why is the Democratic Alliance, the so-called white party, is still the second biggest party in South Africa, despite South Africa being a black majority country? Well, let's break it down logically. From the beginning, from 1994, the black vote has always been concentrated in one party, namely the ANC, the African National Congress. In 2004, the ANC reached its peak, almost winning 70% of the national vote. The other big black party which existed at the time was the IFP. But the problem with the IFP is that it was too regional and mainly appealed to Zulu voters, so it failed to compete nationally. And what did this mean? It meant that the DI didn't need a majority of black voters to actually come in second. By simply consolidating the white, colored and Indian voters and simply adding a slice of, those middle class black voters, it automatically secured the DI at second place. Not because the DI was strong, but because the ANC's dominance was so entrenched that black opposition was so weak. In the Congress of the People, COPE, split from the ANC in 2009, the ANC still held on strong at around 66% of the vote. So the COPE was not enough to dethrone the ANC. When the EFF came into the picture in 2014, it was this bold, youthful, militant organization. But the ANC voters, the older ANC voters, did not trust Malema's style, so Malema did not appeal to those voters. So then again, the DI stayed at second place. So by 2019, the ANC dropped below 60% of the vote, down to 57.5%, and the EFF climbed to 10.8% of the vote. At this time, the DI lost white voters, racist right-wing voters to the Freedom Front Plus, but still no black party could overtake the DI as the second largest party because of these dynamics. 57.5% of the vote was also a strong performance from the ANC's part. Now here is where things get interesting. In 2024, the ANC collapsed to 39.6% of the vote. For the first time, it wasn't a decline of 2% or 3%, it was a free fall from 57.5 to 39.5% of the vote. That's a lot. And what caused that? It was Zuma, Jacob Zuma. It took a former president with Zulu backing to form the Mkhonto party, and suddenly the ANC lost millions of votes. MK shot up to around 15% of the vote. Notice what happened also in 2019. A lot of Zulu voters unhappy with Ramaphosa flirted with the EFF. But in 2024, those same voters switched to MK, and that is why the EFF dropped to 9.5% in 2024. The EFF is 9% and the MK is 15%. That gets you to around 24% of the vote. That is bigger than the DI's 21.8% of the vote. So in other words, the DI's second place position has always been artificial. It existed because black voters were locked into the ANC and that they didn't trust any other black opposition. By global standards, the ANC is still large. In Germany, a party with 30% of the vote is considered a dominant party. So the ANC on 40% is still the single biggest political force in South Africa. So here are the lessons that we have to learn here. If people stop handing the ANC automatic loyalty, other parties are going to rise. So imagine if a further 10% from the ANC was lost and that had gone to the MK party, it would have brought the MK party to around 25% of the vote, easily becoming the opposition, the official opposition party. And if you add the EFF to that, you have got a serious contender and challenger to the ANC. So the answer is simple. The DA has been second for so long, not because it is powerful, but because the ANC monopolized black votes while opposition was fragmented. And Jacob Zuma last year broke that monopoly, and that is why 2024 looked so different. To conclude, the DA is not the second largest party because white people are manipulating our votes. It is the second largest party because you, black people, are not voting for other black parties.